Good morning, everybody. It's Monday morning's edition of Ask the Master Auto Technician. Last week I got to take a couple of days off, so if you saw a repeat of the show, well, it happens. I sometimes have to take some time off to go visit my kids and grandkids, and that's what I get to do best, it seems like, the older I get. But I got Frank Sender calling all the way from, I don't know where he's calling from, probably Panama City, probably Kentucky, probably St. Augustine. Where are you calling from this morning, Frank?
Oh, this morning I am in Richmond, Kentucky.
Richmond, Kentucky. I tell you what, you travel more than anyone I know out there. But you sent me we've been talking about it, about NASCAR, the future of NASCAR. And I'm not a real big follower of NASCAR, but I did grow up watching circle races, the dirt track races and everything. And a lot of my friends went into it and learned how to work on race cars. And me, I wasn't into making the race cars. I was into maintaining the engines. But it was a sport that people, when they went from dirt track, they went into bigger racing and faster racing. And now we have these quarter midgets they're one single cylinder. They're like Briggs & Stratton engines. They got top speed of about 40 miles an hour. We even have a track here in Panama City Beach over the bridge that has their electric go-karts to do about 40 miles an hour. And you sent me an article saying this may be the saving grace of NASCAR if we can get youngsters involved in the car culture again, like you and I were, because, well, they don't seem to be involved in cars anymore because, well, they're too complicated and too expensive and all those reasons. And I just want to know if you thought about anything more about this racing midget cars and youngsters, about maybe the dangers on it, but how the pros, the cons, the goods, the bads, the uglies. Didn't know if you thought any more about it, about kids racing.
Well, let me start this way. 3 words. Go Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton, 4-time Formula One champion, won the German Grand Prix again in very wet, rainy, slick conditions. The guy is a master on racetracks and is just setting records all over the place. That said, I picked Lewis Hamilton for a reason. Lewis Hamilton himself says he will probably be the last middle-class or poor person ever to be a world racing champion. Because for him to do it, his father had to work 3 jobs to keep him in race cars and things like that, and to take care of all the travel and maintenance and to keep upgrading as he got better and moved up in classes.
Right.
It's a very expensive sport.
That's what I'm reading. Very expensive. They're talking about beginning, you may start off with $1,000 car, but if you're going to become competitive, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 for a quarter race car is not unheard of.
That would just be the down payment.
Yeah, well, I'm just talking about on the quarter scale, on the quarter midget cars. I'm talking about these little dinky single cylinders, and we're not talking about Grand Prix, but it is expensive. And it's amazing how expensive it has become. But, I was talking, my daughter lives down in the Daytona Beach area, and I was down there the last few weeks, my oldest daughter, talking about the history of Daytona Beach racing, where they used to race on the beach itself. And, why they did it, how they did it, and the rules and regulations and all that. And it came from just a bunch of guys that were trying to, they were, I think NASCAR, what she was telling me, and if I remember correctly, originated from moonshine runners trying to outrun the law carrying moonshine. And they a bunch of outlaws they formed this race. They started racing, and especially in the beach down there. And it's turned in from a poor man's sport into a very, you better have a lot of money if you're going to be into the sport.
Yes, it has become something else. Here's something to consider. In the top ranks of Grand Prix racing, almost half the racers there are wealthy or find the money to do it. Okay, so their parents give them the money so they can buy a seat in the race car, and they'll race that car all year long. And it may take $10, $20, $30 million a year to be in Formula One.
Yeah, in Formula One, of course, yes.
Yeah, sure. But when you translate it all the way down, you think about the sports that they play in schools.
Yeah.
A baseball, which is pretty cheap. You need a stick and a glove and a ball, and you're good to go.
Yeah, supposedly. Yeah, it's supposed to be. Yeah, right.
Football, you need a helmet, you need a uniform, and you need the willingness to risk lifelong injuries. But there you are. And
Same as
football.
Yeah, same thing.
Football is dying.
Yeah.
Football is dying. The feeder to football, because of all these long-term brain injuries that the professional football players are playing, you are seeing already in the smaller feeder teams. Right. What do they call it? TV football and stuff.
I think so.
Parents are starting to keep Parents are starting to keep their kids out of football now because they don't want to subject their kids to injuries.
Now, that's one thing I've been reading about the quarter scale midget. There is a chance of injury from race cars, but from wrecks. What are we going to say?
Yeah, I want to include soccer in the football.
Well,
it's really a terrible thing that it's happening to a lot of our young people that they're playing these sports and they're getting head injuries that will go and carry through the rest of their life.
Well, I'm not trying to, sissify, because I got myself knocked around a few times, got some head injuries when I was a kid. Maybe I don't know, but the point is, you got to parents want to keep their kids safe, of course, but even in this racing, it can be dangerous where you have collisions and things. But when you and I were growing up, we drank Kool-Aid with sugar. We rode our bicycles without training wheels. We played in the streets. We came home when the street lights came on. And it seems like we've gotten away from that with our children. They don't seem to be interested in cars. They don't seem to be interested in anything but a smartphone. I'm speaking for myself. I went last night to visit my grandchildren, and when you weren't talking to them, they were playing video games on their telephones. Now these kids, my grandchildren.
Well, now last night I saw them playing solitaire.
Well, I saw one child playing solitaire, but we're trying to she learned a couple of card tricks last night too. But the point I'm trying to say is most children don't do sports that involve anything that involve working with other people or competitive sports because of the danger, maybe getting hurt. I'm just saying maybe that's what we've turned into. We're sissifying our children. I don't know. My wife's worried about head injuries and everything, and it does happen, but you and I, we survived it, We did all those things, and not everyone does survive. But is there balance?
I don't know if we are walking testimonials, James. Here we are at the age we are, talking about cars and NASCARs and tut-tutting all this stuff. So maybe there's something to not letting the kids drink sugar-filled Kool-Aid.
Or run with scissors.
But going to your larger point, you remember at one time when you and I were in school, back when the world was younger and dinosaurs roamed the earth.
Right.
They used to offer boxing as a sport in school.
Yes. Even when I went to the Navy, we had a athletic sports day. We actually had boxing matches, between companies. I thought some people got the crap beat out of them. They don't do that anymore?
No, not anymore. And I think it will take one very good class action lawsuit from some parent and a really good law firm towards a school system that will bankrupt them enough that all the other school systems will abandon football as a sport.
Yeah, you may be right there. It won't take
in places like Texas, where football is not so much a sport as a religion, it's going to cause some convulsive social changes.
Well, everything's different in Texas. That's a whole new country there. They may, I don't know, but Texas, that is, like you said, it's a way of life. Friday night lights, that's the thing in Texas.
Yes.
That in Arkansas, it's the same thing. Arkansas and Texas about the same thing. When it comes to local football, high school teams, it is all hands on deck for that. Everybody's involved in it. And there is a lot, like you said, there's been a lot of injuries, but you're saying that maybe that's the reason that people are getting out of, sports like NASCAR or football because of head injuries and soccer and contact sports because of that. So maybe that's why they're not going into racing too, because of the danger?
Well, the danger, the expense, and the level of commitment it takes.
Yeah. Well, it does take
because you work you come home from school every night. You have to do your homework, and then you've got to work on the race car.
Yeah. Well, in my case, if I was a kid, I wouldn't do my homework. I would just work on the race car. That would be I would consider that my homework. Maybe that's why I wasn't a great stellar student in school, because I didn't really like school. I did enjoy auto mechanics. I did enjoy shop. I did enjoy woodworking and rebuilding engines and lawnmowers and things like that, and using my hands. And not everyone's designed for college. Everyone's designed to be a white-collar worker wearing a tie. There's a lot of occupations out there that are going to require people to get their hands dirty and make a pretty good living at it. I think my industry, my occupation is one out there, and there's a strong possibility in the next 20 years it may be going by the wayside, because they're saying what we were talking about a few weeks ago, that by the year 2030, that there's going to be a lot less cars on the American road than there are now. They're talking about from 330 million cars down to 78 million cars in the next 15, 20 years. That's hard to believe we can go that small. I just don't see that happening. But anyway, that's just my viewpoint on that part. But things are changing.
There's a paradigm shift coming right across our society, and we kind of keep talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
How electronics are just powering everything and changing the way they work.
True.
I was in Wisconsin over the weekend. I'm in Kentucky now, just to answer your question. And I'm seeing more Teslas on the road, going down the interstate. And it's becoming not quite a common occurrence, but, oh yeah, there's another Tesla kind of thing. So you're seeing this, and when you circle back, it must frighten NASCAR tremendously. The only form of auto racing that is really growing at this point is what they call e-racing, electric cars.
Well, that's what I was talking about here on the beach. They have electric 40-mile-per-hour go-karts that are indoors where it's air-conditioned, and you race a circle track in there, right across the Jane Hathaway Bridge over there in the shopping center. They have e-karts over there. And I did not realize that the electric carts are the fastest-growing segment. But it would make sense, because you can... Well, it'll probably be all about the same horsepower, about the same engine, about the same money, and it doesn't require a lot of electrical, mechanical ability to work on an electric car. You don't have to rebuild engines or put rings in them. There's a lot less maintenance as well, too, on these cars.
And I mean, it's really tires, and it's a few other things, and some chassis tuning. But the engine itself and the batteries are pretty much locked into the spec. So there's not much you can do for it.
Right. So it depends on the driver's ability, not so much his vehicle.
Well, and here's something to consider. The latest generation of Formula One drivers are coming not from the feeder ranks, but they're coming from computer gaming. And gamers are doing very, very well. Yes. There's a guy named Max Verstappen who's racing Formula One. He's been doing it for 2.5 years, and he came out of he got his basics in the gaming world a year in one of the lower formulas, and then jumped up and is very competitive in the Formula One ranks right now, racing for Red Bull Racing.
That's interesting. We need to talk more about that. I had no idea, but Frank, I've really enjoyed talking to you. You really bring out some points I never really think about, and now we're going to do a little different show this week. I want to talk to you later this week, but my Thursday show, I'm going to probably do you again. I'm going to have you call again on that. We'll be talking more about that, because I got to go visit my daughter and grandkid one more time before they go down to South Florida again. But we'll be talking to you again this week, probably Wednesday or Thursday. Okay, Frank?
If you want the best deal in town for tires, you need to call Baytown Tires at 873-8900.
Hanson and the guys at Baytown Tires take pride in serving Panama City for over 20 years. Baytown Tires on Highway 98 in St. Andrews. All service work backed by a nationwide warranty.
Water is too powerful to fight alone. Mr. Router Plumbing. Sink, shower, and toilet emergency drain services.
All right, welcome back. This is James Morris. We just got off the phone with Frank Sender, and we were talking about the future of race car and children racing, and we talked a little bit about everything. But Scott Hobbs is on here, and he's the gentleman plumber. If you don't have, if you're not on a first name basis with your doctor, your lawyer, your auto mechanic, and your plumber, you really need to be. Good morning, Scott. How you doing today, sir?
I'm great. How are you guys?
Doing very well. Now, we've been hearing a lot in the news about bath salts, about the police, and you sent me something the other day about bath salts, and I went, okay, now we got the police talking about bath salts, but it's bad when your plumber starts talking about bath salts. But you were talking about how they wreak havoc, not on people maybe, but on septic systems. And I had no idea those were that nasty to septic systems out there. And apparently they do quite a number on them, causing them not to work. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well, sure. Well, I'm sure if you treat yourself once in a while, that's not a big issue and not going to be a detrimental. But if they're used on a regular basis, then definitely the oils, the salts, the chemicals that are in them will affect the bacteria in your septic system. So I would say excessive use is going to be a problem for sure.
More than once a week would be excessive, you'd say, or once a month, or what?
I would say probably more than once a month, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
More than once a month. If you're using them more than once a month, you may be setting yourself up for a letdown.
That's right.
Or a pump out.
Right, and you wonder why your septic system's failing, and that could be the cause. And, that leads us to a lot of things. If you're using a water treatment system that uses salt or some other type of chemical, you need to make sure you understand that salt specifically, kills bacteria. And if it's some other type of chemical, then it could potentially be killing that bacteria as well.
Well, I did not know. See, I have a salt, I don't know what it's called, filtration system, whatever, at my house. But we're not on a septic tank. We're on city sewer. But what you're saying is it doesn't, the salt is one of the reasons I need to use BioChoice, because it knocks out that friendly bacteria that's in there, and it kills it. Is that what you're saying the salt does on the water?
Oh, sure. Well, you think about, you preserve food in salt.
True.
So it's to prevent, bacteria growth, right? So it would be the same scenario. And believe it or not, if someone's heavily using antibiotics, those antibiotics will pass through your system and also kill the bacteria. So there's a lot of things that can affect that ecosystem and that septic system.
What happens? What hacks? Now I'm just guessing. When people use antibiotics, you say, well, it kills the good bacteria. So I guess the bad bacteria goes crazy, and the good bacteria is gone in the septic tank. And then what ends up happening? Does the tank blow up, or does it just stop working? I don't know these things. I have to ask. I don't know.
No, we never tell a customer that their house is going to blow up.
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't want to scare them.
No, I just don't know what happens,
Sure. So the absence of bacteria is what prevents the system from operating as it should. Just like in your digestive system, we want probiotics, we want good, healthy bacteria in our system to help everything digest. And it's the same with a septic system. So the fats, oils, and grease float to the top, and then the solids will break down and form a sludge, and they'll sink to the bottom, and then there's a clear liquid in the middle, and that's what goes to your drain field.
Right.
And that's what, because think about the excessive water. A septic tank, usually they're about 900 to 1,100 gallons, and so they'll hold about that much liquid. That you can fill that up in just a few days with a little bit of laundry. So you want that liquid to be clear, and you want it to go out into the drain field, and it soaks up into the soil. And the rest of the things that are the fats, oils, and grease and the sludge, they're digesting in that tank. That's why we recommend every 3 to 5 years have it pumped, so that buildup, that clear liquid, is starting to shrink in the middle, and we want to go ahead and have it pumped out and start the process over. So the absence of bacteria, that's not going to happen. All that stuff is mixed in, and it's not digesting properly, and you've got that the particles and the things, the fats, oils, and grease, and the sludge, all that trying to make its way into your drain field, is going to clog it up.
Not good. Now, I don't know. You've told me there's been lots of changes. There has been lots of changes in the plumbing industry in the last 20 years. But I remember septic tanks used to look kind of like a square concrete boxes. And I saw some a few years ago, there were big round plastic things. And then I've seen some that, well, I really don't know what they look like. I mean, they're just unusual. I don't know what that's made out of. But septic tanks aren't just one size fits all anymore, are they?
No, they're not. And the when you have your system properly sized, that'll determine the size of the tank.
Okay.
And anywhere from 750 gallons to 1,500 gallon tanks. Typically, we find that range in a house. So they can be made out of a plastic. It has to be approved by the health department in the state of Florida.
Okay.
So they and the benefit of that is sometimes you can't get those concrete tanks weigh thousands of pounds.
Yeah,
They're extremely heavy. So you have to have a huge excavator to take them around to make your backyard. And let's say you live on the beach and you have this really small lot and there's no room between the houses. So you can't get that big machine through there. You have to have a plastic tank that can be maybe carried by several men back through the narrow space so they can replace your system.
Now, I'm gonna, I gotta ask something. Someone, I was talking about septic tanks the other day, said, "Yeah, you gotta be careful with those plastic tanks." I said, "Why is that?" I said, "Well, just say it rains a lot and the tank is empty. What's gonna happen?" I went, "You talking about like it pops out of the ground?" He goes, "That could happen." I went, "I never thought about that." He said, and so I said, "Well, ask God about that. How do you keep that from happening if you put a plastic tank in?" I don't know. I have to ask these questions. People ask me.
Sure. The same thing will happen with concrete. If we have a lot of rain and the water table rises, and we have to, as pumpers, when we go in service the tank and we pump a tank out, we have to be very cautious and watch to make sure that we don't cause the tank to pop out. The concrete tank will pop out as well.
I didn't think
just because you think about it, it's like a boat.
Yep.
It's watertight. There's more air in there. And the water around is trying to push it up, so it absolutely will pop out just as easy as the plastic.
I didn't think about that. I figured the weight would keep it from down, but you're right. If you got all this water around, and we do have lots of rain, and we've had lots of rain lately, and there's parts of by the interstate up there getting about an inch a day on average. The reason I say that is because my property up there is getting about an inch a day of rain, which I'm thankful for because I'm not having to feed my bees. My bees have plenty to eat right now without me having to feed them. And I'm going, yes, I like this. It's very unusual to have this kind of summer. Normally it's just the opposite, very dry, no flowers or anything. But if someone goes out there, and that's what I was worried about, they put in a plastic tank, I guess they have to be at least, even any tank, to pump it out, make sure the water level's not too high. Because I know a lot of places around here, when it rains, their septic tank is just about underwater. And that's why most septic tanks now you see are above ground or there's a big mound in the backyard. But I still know some in this town that were built years ago. You can't even tell there's a septic tank in the backyard. But when it rains, they got 3 inches of water in their backyard, and their drains are very, very slow. And they know that too, and they go, "Well, it's just the price we pay for living in the country." And I went, "Okay," but what can people do about that if they have a septic tank that's from years ago put in that's very, very slow because it's too low? Can the septic tanks be elevated, or is there something they can do that doesn't cost replacing them? I just don't know. I just figured I'd ask.
Well, the tank has to remain at that elevation because of the drain from the house. But what you can do is you can have the site evaluated and see what system is required currently now and today based on the the current soil conditions, because soil conditions can change over time. People build next door and down the street, and construction's done, and so water patterns change. And if you had to go with that mound system, what you'd have to do is, as the water leaves the septic tank, it would be pumped up to that mound system.
I didn't. So that's how they do that. Okay, so kind of like 2 septic tanks then, right?
Sure. It'd be a small tank outside the septic tank with a pump in it, so it's taking just the clear water and pumping it up into that drain field that's raised up.
Well, that's a pretty darn good way of doing it, and that way you solve the slow draining problem, and at the same time make your septic tank work a lot more efficiently. And if I think you do it that way, it would be a heck of a lot cheaper than having to replace the whole. I don't know. I'm just guessing. I don't know, but it sounds like a good way to make something that works okay to work better. That might be best.
Sure.
Okay. That's
But the thing you have to keep in mind is if that septic tank is 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, it probably needs to be replaced.
Yeah, all bets are off on that. Well,
Sure.
At my place here, when I did some remodeling, and we went back there, and the front end loader caved the top of the septic tank in when it walked on. I went, oh my, I gotta get that fixed. And then I made a mistake and went to get a permit to fix my septic tank, and they said, you can't do that. And I went, what do you mean? He said, you got a sewer line in front of your place. You need to hook up. I went, uh-oh. And
Nice.
that's another thing people need to consider. If they've got a septic tank that's questionable and there's a sewer line available, they will not be able to repair that septic tank. If I'm staying correctly, they'll end up having to hook up to sewer. So that's another thing to consider.
Yeah, that's definitely something that you have to coordinate with the health department and the municipality that you live in, and ask those questions. Sometimes they kind of put it in such a way that you have to hook up.
Yeah.
You're encouraged very strongly through permits and things like that. You're motivated to go to the city connection.
And that's just something people need to be aware of, because I know a lot of businesses that have been on septic tanks for years, such as myself years ago, and then they don't think anything about it. Then over time they run the septic system down, the sewer system down in front of their business, and then all of a sudden they have a problem with their septic tank. They go to get it fixed, and that's how we found out the plumber. I think y'all told us. They said, look, you can't do anything. You've got to hook up to to the sewer system. I went, really? Yep, you've got a sewer line in front of you. And that's one of the things y'all do. Y'all actually pull the permits and find out what's needed to make sure you do it right, where you won't have a problem with your insurance company 10 years down the road.
That's right. And that, especially like we talk about water heaters, you want to have a permit pulled for replacing your water heater, so you don't have a problem with your insurance company. Or if you go to close on the house,
yes,
the home inspector finds that the water heater's been replaced, recently, he's going to want to require to show that a plumbing permit was pulled, that a professional installed it. So it definitely benefits you in so many ways.
Well, we got 30 seconds left. Why do people need a permit for these things? Just in case I caught their attention. 30 seconds.
They need a permit so they can ensure that the insurance company will cover any losses. That proves to the insurance company that a professional installed it who has license and insurance and so forth. And also, if you go to sell your home, sometimes that is required by the closing company or the purchaser to prove that was installed by a professional.
And that's good advice right there. On that note, we're going to leave. We'll talk to you again next. Summer is here and the days are getting longer and hotter. Call James Auto Center for a free cooling system evaluation and consultation. Give us a call, 850-763-0555 today.
Part of what I'd like to let you know is what we do and how we work our system. Basically, we've got about 700 stocking dealers scattered around the 15 counties here in the Big Bend area of the state. I run a fleet of trucks, vans, and what we call hotshot vehicles to deliver to our dealers quickly so they can help service you as fast and efficiently as they can. Provide timely and efficient service, and we're there to take care of our dealers, who in turn can take care of their customers.
Summer is here and the days are getting longer and hotter. Call James Auto Center for a free cooling system evaluation and consultation. Give us a call, 850-763-0555 today.
Beep, 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 yeah!